are back for another Christian review of regular books and no spoiler review of The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. If you haven't been to one of these videos before, I do have a video pinned to the top of this playlist that gives you all the information about my Christian reviews, but the things you need to know is I'm going to do my regular review first, my own personal thoughts and opinions, and then we're going to get into the Christian review. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can stay up to date with all of these Christian reviews because we're posting them all the time, okay? And you don't want to miss them because there's some good books in here. There's some gems of series that we want to be talking about. Let's go ahead and get into my regular review. The House in the Cerulean Sea is very much touted as like a cozy fantasy. And in a lot of ways, I can see what they're saying. Like it is very cozy in that it's very kind of sweet and it doesn't have a lot of like violence or gore. It doesn't have any sort of political intrigue the way that a lot of high fantasy or fantasy books have. However, that is about where the coziness ends. And that's because the topics that are discussed in this book are far beyond any sort of cozy topic. Topics like racism, topics like segregation, topics like treating others as less than, those are not cozy topics. And this book does a really great job of showing you those topics in a way that is super important. And I think really, really well done. I also really loved a lot of the characters in here, especially the main character was definitely going through this very like finding oneself kind of journey. And I loved watching his experience in doing that. So for so many reasons, I truly loved this book and had a great time reading it. Ultimately, I rated it 4.5 stars. I loved this book, but I'm going to give a little bit of a like spoiler warning and like prelude warning that if you are a believer, you're gonna wanna check out my Christian review because there are some interesting topics or things in this book that I think you may wanna know about. So let's go ahead and get into my Christian review. The first category I always love to touch on because it's very popular is smut or spice, and there is really nothing in here, which is so nice to be able to say. There is a small alluded moment, but that is it. There is not even a fade to black. It is truly just alluded to by the end of the book. So I feel like that's a win. The second category, because this is fantasy, is if there's any like magic system concerns, and no, not really. Like the magic system is not the concern. But here's where I'm gonna put a little bit of a spoiler warning in here because I went into this book completely blind and had no clue about the characters, and I do think it's super important for a fellow believer to be aware of. One of the characters is the Antichrist. Basically, the way this book works is that it is a gentleman who is going off to take care of a school for abnormal children, shall we say, and these abnormal children are children with different magical abilities. So they have all sorts of different things. There's things like the Phoenix, right? Like things you guys know or have seen. And so they're all like 7 or 8 years old. But the character in this book, one of the kids, is the Antichrist. And the whole book is really focused around this idea of like, you can be who you want to be and you can be what you want to be. And that's a whole other topic on a whole other day that has nothing to do with my Christian reviews that we can talk about. However, what I will say is that the topic of this child being the Antichrist is really like made out to be like, he's not as bad as it seems, right? That like his dad is the problem, his dad being like the devil, and that he is just trying to survive and be like a good kid. I think that it just kind of sends a very interesting message, and I actually, when reading this book, stopped and slowed down and like had a conversation with my husband. We prayed over it, we like talked about it, and I did it so that I could give you guys my full review. But it definitely shifted for me personally the way that I'm gonna read any other like T.J. Klune books in the future. I will not pick them up because he really does focus on kind of like evil in that way, and often making evil in a way that shouldn't be that bad, right? That we should not perceive it as that bad. So it was interesting. Ultimately, I think that this book, if you want to make that decision for yourself, is 18 plus, because again, that topic necessarily more so than anything else. But if you were to take that out, if that character wasn't in the book, I'd say it's probably like 16 plus. And again, maybe with like adult conversation involved in that. You make the decision that's best for you and or your teenager, and we can go from there. As always, you can see everything that I'm reading and rating in real time by following me on Goodreads. I'm also on Instagram and I'm on TikTok, and I do actually have my own YouTube channel, which goes over my more of like wrap-up videos, TBRs, like more of my day-to-day reading journey. If you're wanting to follow me in any of those places, the links are down below in the description box. Also, don't forget that we want to continue in this conversation. Make sure to comment down below. Let me know if you would read this book, or if you even knew that one of the main characters in this book was the Antichrist. I feel like that's so crazy to say. And I will definitely see you on the next one.